What's up, everybody? And today we're checking out A Soldier So Strange He Was Labeled Mad Jack. This is by the legendary storyteller, the spooky man, the former SEAL, Mr. Ballin. I watched some of his videos a long time ago, and it's crazy because he now has over 9 million subscribers. And the first time I reacted to some of his videos, I think he had about the same amount of subscribers as me, about 500,000. And he's blown up this much. He's got an Amazon show. I think he's got a book that's out or coming out. This guy just, he's remarkable, isn't he? What he's done with his channel. He's absolutely brilliant. He's really good at telling stories, the spooky, the unnatural, all that good stuff. I don't even need to say this, but if you're not already subscribed to Mr. Ballin, which you probably all are, link down below, first link down below in the description, a link over to his channel. Please go over there, give it some love because he deserves so much love. His videos are amazing. So I'm excited for this one. It's a short one. It's only like 12 minutes long, but let's watch it. Let's have some fun. Let's learn about this Mad Jack. What was I going to say before we get started? I don't think I've got any other announcements. I've got some really cool announcements coming up, so please stay tuned, turn on notifications, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for some really cool really cool announcements coming up. Also, there's links down below in the description for all my gear if you want to see what I record with and stuff like that. Anyway, let's shut up, let's watch this, and let's see what he's got to say.
There are some people that everyone should know about, and one of those people is Jack Churchill. But before we get into Jack's story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you come to the right channel because that's all we do, and we upload 3 or 4 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, please invite the like button to come out with you for a nice casual get-together, and when you're about halfway through dinner, start aggressively hard-selling your multi-level marketing scheme. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's story.
I've heard a lot of his ways of saying press the like button, but that might be one of my favorites. Start selling him your multi-level marketing. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Well done. Well done. All right, Mr. Ballin, give me a good story. Mad Jack. Bit loud that, sorry guys.
In 1926, Jack Churchill graduated from one of the UK's most prestigious military academies called Sandhurst, thus becoming an army officer.
Yeah.
His first assignment was to an infantry unit stationed in Burma, but when he got there, it was peacetime, so Jack didn't have much to do. But instead of just sitting around...
I'm guessing his last name's Churchill. I'm guessing he's related to Winston Churchill, my presumption.
Around all day, Jack did what any other restless young military officer would do, and he mastered the bagpipes, despite being zero...
Okay, hear me out. Bagpipes, the best instrument ever created. It's not even close. They're the best instrument ever, musical instrument ever created. My granddad plays the bagpipes, and he's tried teaching me over the years. I have my own practice chanter and all that lot, and I still practice every now and again. But bagpipes are by far the best musical instrument ever created, and I will die on top of that hill with that claim. I think they're amazing.
0% Scottish. He also took a trip across the entire Indian subcontinent on his motorcycle, almost entirely on unpaved roads. But in 1936, despite these incredible side hobbies, he just wasn't really that interested in being a part of the military when there wasn't anything going on. And so he decided to get out. He moved to Nairobi, Kenya, where he became a newspaper editor / male model / movie extra. During his off time, he still took his bagpiping very seriously, placing second in a prominent piping competition in 1938.
Wow.
He also picked up another hobby, archery.
People don't realize how hard them bagpipe competitions are. Also, archery. This guy is a man of my heart. You know what I mean? Like, why I said that? I literally just finished. In fact, here's my certificate. I literally just finished an archery course because I'm super into archery. Bagpipes, archery. This guy's into the same stuff I'm into.
and he became so good at it so quickly that he was chosen by England to represent them in the Archery World Championships in 1939.
Holy.
Later that same year, when World War II broke out, Jack decided now's a good time to get back into the army. So he rejoined the army, and he was promptly sent to France to help defend their borders against a potential Nazi invasion.
Okay.
But shortly after Jack arrived, Hitler was able to push through those defenses, and he launched a brutal blitzkrieg campaign against the Allies in France.
Yep.
Blitzkrieg is a military tactic that's basically an all-out attack all at once with everything you got. So planes, tanks, artillery, infantry, you just send all of it in an attempt to overwhelm your enemy before you run out of resources.
And it was successful for them, unfortunately. It was, as you all probably know the history of it anyway.
And in this case, Hitler's blitzkrieg was successful. In just 6 weeks, they not only invaded France, they conquered it. But during that 6-week battle...
Isn't that crazy? They took the whole country. Isn't that crazy? And then the Allies were able to bring it back and take it back. Just think how nuts that is. Like, that's a whole country right there.
For France that the Allies ultimately lost, Jack made a name for himself by employing 2 particular weapons that nobody else in World War II was using. He is the only one who used these weapons for the entirety of World War II. Jack and 2 other infantrymen were up on this hill overlooking this town that was full of Nazis, and at some point 5 Nazis come running out to the edge of this town, and they duck behind a wall that's about 30 meters away from Jack. And one of these Nazis stands up and quickly crumples to the ground. And his 4 Nazi comrades look to see what happened to him, and they see a dead man on the ground with the back end of an arrow jutting out of his chest. And that...
You imagine getting a confirmed kill with a bow and arrow during World War II. Holy shit. Yeah, don't worry about that guy over there. He just got a confirmed kill. Oh, really? What was it? Oh, he used a bow. He used a bow. Can you imagine?
Arrow was fired by none other than Jack Churchill.
Wow.
Because for the duration of World War II, he didn't carry a gun. He didn't need a gun. Instead, he carried a bow and arrow and a long broadsword. Although periodically he would scoop the weapons up off of dead enemy soldiers, and he would fire those. When asked why he didn't just carry a gun in the first place, he responded, "Any officer that goes into action without his sword is improperly dressed." From then on,
that's true. That's very true. I don't know if the Americans do this, but officers in the Royal Marines all have swords as well. It's pretty cool. It's actually pretty cool. I wish I had a sword.
Became Mad Jack, and his peers loved him, but his leadership hated him. They said he was setting a terrible example, that no one should be running around with a sword and a bow and arrow. But he was so effective, they let him continue. Throughout the brutal 6-week battle for France, Jack would lead dozens of these small raids against the Nazis, and he would just pick them off one by one with his bow and arrow and with his sword. And in one particular raid, he got shot through the neck, but he was so nonchalant about it that when he got back to base, someone was like, "Hey, Jack, you're bleeding." And he was like, "Oh, yeah, I am." They were like, "Well, what happened?" He's like, machine gun. After the Allies finally lost this battle for France.
Oh, yeah, it was a machine gun. No big deal. Imagine getting shot through the neck and just cracking on. Can you imagine? With a bow on your back and a long sword. Yeah, I got shot in the neck. Jeez, no wonder they called him Mad Jack.
France and were forced to evacuate. They found a diary from one of the British soldiers, and in it he talks about the one thing that motivated him and the other troops around him, and that was the sight of Mad Jack running hither and thither with his bow and arrow and his broadsword. For his bravery.
I mean, why the fuck not? You're probably gonna get killed anyway. It's World War II. Why not have some fun with it and going with a bow and a long sword? If I didn't have a family and there was a world war, right? And I didn't really care anymore because the chances are we're all probably going to die anyway, I would be running in with a bow and a sword, being like, you know what? Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun. That's what I'd be doing, 100%.
Jack was awarded the Military Cross. After leaving France, Jack heard about this new unit, the Commandos, that was being stood up to aggressively sabotage Nazi operations.
That's my boys right there, the Commandos.
And they were looking for volunteers. And Jack didn't know much about what they were going to do, but they promised combat, and so he was all for it, and he volunteered. The commando unit would go on to become the famous British Special Forces.
Yep.
And the training they put Jack and the other volunteers through was absolutely brutal. And Jack just loved it. He loved being in the Commandos. After graduation in 1941, Jack was put in command of a commando unit that was tasked with going to this Norwegian town of Vågsøy and taking down a Nazi garrison there. And so they
People don't realize how badass Royal Marines commandos are. I know I joke about, because I was in the Royal Marines. I joke about it on this channel and I use the name and it gets thrown about. But people don't realize how badass the Royal Marines commandos are and some of the history. We've had my unit before I arrived to them, just got back from Afghan, Herrick 11, right? So they got back from Afghan and then I joined them, right? And in Afghan, they strapped themselves to Chinooks. That was the unit I was part of to rescue someone. Like, there is crazy, crazy stories of things that the Royal Marines have done on operations that you wouldn't even believe. Absolutely bonkers stories.
loaded up into their amphibious landing craft, and Jack's got his kilt on, and he's got his bagpipes, and he plays the bagpipes on the entire transit over to Bogsoy to pump up the commandos. And then Jack's landing craft was the first to reach the shores, and when its ramp came down, Jack was the first off, and he just kept playing his bagpipes, despite the fact that the Nazis now see them, and they're shooting at them. So rounds are impacting around him as he's blaring his bagpipes.
Yes!
And only when he finished his song did he shoulder his bagpipes, pull out a grenade. He saw some Nazis running along the ridgeline. He throws a grenade at them and pulls out his sword and runs into battle. In just a few hours, the Nazi garrison had fallen, and Jack was awarded.
Can you imagine being against someone and just seeing a guy running along with a sword going, come on! I'd be like, fair one, lad. Go on, lad.
His second military cross. During the Italian amphibious landings in 1943, Jack again was in charge of a commando unit, and they were tasked with capturing a Nazi observation post that was in this town just outside of Salerno. It was well defended and fortified, and Jack and his men were outnumbered 20-1. So Jack came up with a genius plan. Instead of using stealth tactics, he broke his small team into 6 different groups, and he placed them all around the outside of this town. And it was nighttime, so the Nazis did not see them setting up. And then on Jack's call, he had them all yell out at the exact same time, "Commando!" And the Nazis in the town were so caught off guard by all this yelling coming from all around them, they assumed a huge force is coming to take over this town. And so they went on the defensive. And so after their big war cry, Jack and his group are the first to charge down into this town, and Jack and one other guy would actually splinter off, and they would discover this big group of Nazis that were setting up their mortars. And so Jack and this guy sneak up behind one of them, and Jack grabs him from behind, holds this sword to his throat, and orders him to tell the rest of the...
That right there is the commando dagger, which I have one. I actually have one.
team to surrender. And so the rest of the team, who vastly outnumber Jack and the other guy, they turn around and they see this lunatic wearing a kilt, wielding a sword. He's got bagpipes slung over his shoulder along with a bow and arrow. And they're like, okay, we give up. Shortly after, the rest of the Nazis in this town would surrender to Jack and his men. And for his actions, Jack would be awarded the Distinguished Service Order. In 1944, Jack was in Yugoslavia with the commandos trying to capture a strategically valuable location called Point 62.
Some of the stories from World War II are just nuts, aren't they? Like, they're just so hard to comprehend these days. And there's so many, I've said this before, there's so many stories that are going to disappear in time, and we'll never know about them, and they're just remarkable.
And when every man in his team was either killed or severely wounded, and when Jack had run out of arrows, instead of surrendering, he pulled out his bagpipes and started playing until a grenade detonated behind him, knocking him unconscious. The Nazis captured him and sent him to Berlin to be interrogated because they believed, because of his last name, Churchill, that he was connected to or related to the Prime Minister, Winston Churchill.
Right.
He wasn't, not at all. So they ordered Jack...
Oh, so he's not related to him at all. That's interesting. I thought it was going to be, especially being an officer and stuff, but hey, there you go.
To be sent to a concentration camp. On his way out of Berlin, Jack secretly flicked a lit cigarette butt into one of his interrogators' offices, and he lit it on fire, but nobody knew it was him. And so Jack arrives at this concentration camp, and he's only there for a couple of months before he and another British military officer managed to escape by crawling underneath one of the barbed wire fences. They had slowly burrowed a tunnel without anybody noticing, and then they jumped down into this abandoned drainage pipe, and they crawled out to freedom that way. But their freedom would be short-lived because they only made it a couple of miles before they were recaptured by the Nazis. And so they were ordered to go to another concentration camp that was considered much more secure. But after only having been at this new concentration camp for less than a year, once again, Jack was able to escape. This time it was...
You need to watch, if you haven't watched the film The Great Escape, about them tunneling out of concentration camps, watch it because it's remarkable.
because there was a power outage at the camp, and Jack just put his shovel down and casually walked out the front gates and nobody noticed. He walked 150 miles in the treacherous terrain of the Alps, surviving on vegetables he had stolen from people's gardens, and then finally, 8 days later, he came across a United States Armored Division.
What?
And they took him in and reconnected him with British troops, and then he was ultimately sent back to England. And
holy
while Jack
shit!
was free, he was very frustrated that the war in Europe was effectively over and he had missed most of it. And so he requested a transfer to go out to Burma to fight against the Japanese in the Pacific Theater. But as soon as he got there, the Americans had just dropped the atomic bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, Japan, abruptly ending World War II. And when Jack...
He sounds like the type of person that when there's no war going on, they just go absolutely insane and end up doing something stupid. You know what I mean? You know the type. You know the type.
Heard about this, he was so disappointed he would not get to do any more fighting. He was quoted as saying, if it wasn't for those Yanks, we could have kept this war going for another 10 years. Even though the war was over, Jack desperately wanted to get into combat at least one more time, and so he went to jump school and qualified as a parachutist at the age of 40. And with this new qualification, he was assigned to a light infantry unit, and they were deployed to Palestine to train their army how to better fight the Arab forces. And while he was there, he gained even more fame when he defended a Jewish medical convoy from an Arab ambush. And he did this all while wearing a kilt. Another time, he and 12 of his men...
Is he just wearing the same kilt throughout the whole time he's been at war? It's got bullet holes in it and stuff. It's all patched up.
helped evacuate 700 people from a Jewish hospital that was under attack from Arab forces.
Wow.
After Palestine, Jack came back to England and eventually retired from the army, and then begrudgingly took a desk job within the Ministry of Defense. And
can you imagine taking a desk job after doing that? Jesus.
Every day on his commute home on the train, he would take his briefcase and throw it out the window as they were moving. What he had figured out was if he threw it at the exact right moment, it would land in the backyard of his house, and he wouldn't need to carry his briefcase from the station to his house. But he didn't explain that to any of the other passengers on the train. They just figured there's some crazy guy who keeps throwing his briefcases out the window. In his retirement, he also became an extremely talented surfer. And at one point, he wanted to surf the Severn Bore, which is this huge wave in southwestern England that nobody else had surfed before. And locals that were familiar with this treacherous wave, they cautioned him and said, you really shouldn't do this. And he looked at them and he just said, I'll be all right. And then he proceeded to be the first person ever to successfully ride that wave. Jack would
What the fuck? This guy was a legend.
Ultimately die in 1996. He was 89 years old. So that's
wow.
gonna do it, guys. If you found the secret in today's episode,
wow.
let us know in the comments what it is and where you found it. So give us the timestamp. And if you're the first to do that, we'll pin you at the top of the comments section. If you enjoyed today's video and you haven't done this already, please invite the like button to come out with you for a very casual get-together. And when you're about halfway through dinner, start aggressively hard-selling your multi-level marketing scheme. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly 3 or 4 video uploads. If you want to get...
Yeah, I mean, you should be checking out Mr. Ballin. I'm pretty sure he's got... a book. Let me find it real quick. Yeah, I need to get this book. I need to get this book big time. Here it is. And it's released. It's coming out in October. You can pre-order it, so it's not even out yet. I gotta pre-order this book, haven't I? Get it. Oh, it's a graphic book. Interesting. I'm guessing he doesn't. Yeah, that's the only thing he's got. It's a graphic book. That's really cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get it. I'm gonna have to get it, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Absolutely fantastic video by the legendary man himself, Mr. Ballin. Mad Jack was well and truly mad. Well and truly mad. He is into a lot of things I'm into, apart from the surfing. I'm not really into surfing. But archery and the bagpipes. If I didn't have a family and there was a big war and I didn't really care anymore, I'd probably do the same, going with a sword. I mean, why not? Do you know what I mean? Why not have some fun with your last few days of your life? Any day in a war could be your last one. Do you know what I mean? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. There'll be a link down in the description for the original video if you want to go and watch it without me waffling over the top of it. Please go subscribe to Mr. Ballin. And until next time, I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.